So first and foremost, we start with the history of the patient. The patient should not be having a history of any AIS or some kind of scoliosis in childhood, teenage. Then predominantly the patient comes with 90% of the patient will be coming with the axial back pain. If it is sagittally balanced, it will be in the paraspinal fatigue in the convex side of the curve. And if the patient is having a sagittal imbalance, this will be a low lying pain in the lower back, sacrum, iliac area. Because of instability, patient can have painful arc, Gore sign can be positive, instability and catch. So Silva Lanke told that the patient with plain lumbar canal stenosis get relieved with stooping posture, but with deformity, the patient tends to put their hand by the side to get relief. Another important thing, in deformity, if the patient is having lower limb pain on the convex side, it can be because of the traction, which you will not be able to find on the MRI. So let's come to the most important aspect, the radiological evaluation. So you need a standing full spine X-ray, that is a must. You need to calculate Cobb's angle, SVA, PI, PT. You need a side bending and dynamic X-rays to evaluate the flexibility of the curve, which is very, very important. If the curve is flexible, then SMISS will work. If the curve is not flexible and it is rigid, it is not gonna work. So instability of spine, you need to assess. You need to see the MRI, you need to see the stenosis, you need to, because L5S1, one might not be very comfortable going anterior. So you plan accordingly, how much is the compression, whether indirect decompression will work or not. So you need to see disc degeneration, neural compression, you need to assess the corridor and safety of the corridor. CT scan is required for bone quality. CT Hounsfield unit we definitely look at. The osteophytes, because there are, if you are going anterior, there are osteophytes there, you need to know whether it is fused or not, it is going to open up or not. So you need to see the rotational deformity, instability with vacuum. Bone DEXA scan and CT Hounsfield unit for osteoporosis is a must. So standing whole spine, this is an X-ray. You need to see how imbalanced the patient is coronally. This is how you calculate the lumbar lordosis, Cobb's angle if 40 degree here. This is a sagittally balanced spine. This is another patient you see, coronally balanced, but sagittally this is falling off. So these are the various situations, So this is the spinopelvic balance. We all know the angle now. This was, if you see this, so this is the FBI method. What is it? You try, if the patient is falling like this, you try to get a plumb line at the ideal position where it should be, and you calculate this angle, C70A. You add the femoral obliquity and you add pelvic tilt, PTCA. You add these three angles and you calculate the FBI. But this is a bit complicated, so what I use, what is my way of doing it? So, to understand sagittal balance, pelvic incidence is a constant angle. It is going to stay like that forever in your life. You are born with a fixed pelvic incidence angle, it doesn't change, okay? So once you know your pelvic incidence of the patient, then you can, with this formula that Dr. Lee Huek has given, the ideal lumbar lordosis for that pelvic incidence can be calculated. Suppose the pelvic incidence is 40 degree. So by this formula, 48 degree will be the ideal lumbar lordosis for that patient. And if I have a patient who has a lumbar lordosis of 20 degrees, so there is a requirement of 28 degrees, so that is how I plan my cases. So in OLIF, you can get 8 to 10 degrees of correction per level with OLIFs and anterior surgeries. So if you plan three levels, so you'll get around 30 degrees of correction. So that is the basis how we plan our cases. So another important fact, L4 to S1 lordosis, 60% of global lordosis is L4 to S1. This is very, very important because we are fusing from behind, posteriorly, we are doing T-lifts, and we are creating flat backs, and then that creates the problem and future of adjacent segment and everything. So another important thing is global alignment angles, SVA, SSA, and ODHA. So SSA is a very good angle. It is 135 plus minus 8 degrees, and we routinely use it. MRI, as we were discussing, you need to, for the corridor, this is for ALIF or OLIF 5-1, this is the corridor for the anterior surgery. You can you need to know about it. CT scan, as we were discussing, this is the osteophyte. So you need to be knowing how it is fused or not, whether it is going to open up or not. When you are planning anterior surgery, you need to know all these things. DEXA scan and CTHU is important too. Assessment of osteoporosis is important. So this is a paper which says less than Hounsfield unit of less than 98 had 73.3% of PGF, and it reduced as the Hounsfield unit was better. So bone quality better leads to less adjacent segment problems, less PGF. So nutritional assessment, serum albumin less than 3.5 and HbA1c greater than 8 is a no-no for a surgery. You should build your patient. So going to the classification, there are 4 basic main important classification. As this was the first classification, which says PI minus LL will lead to poor quality of life if it is more than 10, 20 degrees, if it increases. So Lamartina told us the compensatory mechanism. This helps us in identifying the UIV, where should be the upper vertebral level. So they initially gave a classification. This was the classification where they decided that they told the treatment that in type 1 and 2 you can fix the short fixation, and in type 4 you need to go large. But finally, this is the MISSAB, this is the crux. So in the MISSAB algorithm, they have told that less than PI minus LL less than 10 degree, you can do just decompressions and short fusions. PI minus LL less than 30 degree, thoracic kyphosis less than 60 degree SMISS, and beyond 30 degree, you need to go open.
Yes, please conclude.
So, okay. So just these were the cases that maybe just UIV and LLV, and then I can conclude. So this is also important, how to calculate the UIV. Upper instrumented vertebra is like, usually the inflection point is taken and D10 is usually there. So if it is kyphotic, dorsal spine is kyphotic, then you need to go up. Otherwise, if it is compensating well, as Lamartina told, if it is hypokyphotic, you can stop at D10. Lower in LIV vertebra, L5, S1 and ilium, L5 has a higher chances of proximal junction failures and fast lumbosacral degeneration, but in small fusion, you can stick to L5. And S1 and ilium are typically taken as LIV. Larger corrections sagittally can be got with ilium as the base. So these were just the cases like PI minus LL less than 10. This patient short fusions were done. This was first stage, this was second stage. PI minus LL less than 30. These are all cases where we did CMIS, and we were able to get decent correction. So in rigid deformities, if there is no way that your CMIS is going to work. You have to go posterior. You have to kind of do osteotomies, do PSOs, do things like that. And if your PI minus LL is greater than 30 degree, but that doesn't mean that CMIS doesn't have, or the anterior surgery doesn't have a role. This is a patient which I was talking, if it is rigid, it will not work. This was how she came to us. So we did put the cages, but you see it has not budged. But what has happened with the cages, I could compress it very well with the post. So I was able to prevent a major wedge subtraction osteotomy, or a major open closing wedge osteotomy, which I would have required on the first stage. With these cages, just closure, ponte osteotomy worked, and I could get a reasonably balanced, good spine. So pre-op planning checklist, full spine imaging, bone density.
Please conclude, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.